Hello everyone, my name is Matt, and I'm going to be teaching you Excel. This is the first episode, so we're going to go over a few things that you probably already know, but we're going to cover them anyway. I suck at introductions. First off, let's talk about what we call things in Excel. This is a cell. This is a cell. This is a cell. These are all cells. Cell is just one piece of your entire worksheet. The distinction here is that you want to use the correct terminology when discussing parts of Excel, and I think that everyone pretty much knows what a cell is, but we're going to get bigger and it's going to become a little bit more confusing, and so I'm going to start off easy. That's a cell. Anywhere you put things, you can just type in here, you're typing in a cell. Now, if I'm breaking over and this is moving into another cell here, that doesn't mean that that part of it is in that cell, because if I start typing here, and now you don't even see the rest of that. And so there are certain important things about knowing what cell things are in and what groupings of cells you're combining. You can actually combine cells as well. That's what this merge and center button does here. You can also merge, unmerge cells and not center it, that sort of stuff. Let's talk about worksheets. This is a worksheet. This entire thing is a worksheet that I see right here. If I click this button right here, I make a new worksheet. So now I have two worksheets. These are independent of each other. One of the greatest things about Excel is that you can have multiple worksheets, and you can actually have them talking to each other, which is pretty cool. Workbook. Let's talk about that. This entire document, all of the worksheets together, make up the workbook. Now, the reason I'm separating this from file is because there's a difference between the workbook and the file. The workbook is everything that you currently see, and the file is everything that goes along with the workbook. Yes, there are certain things that are not in the workbook that can go with the file, and we'll get to that. The file is what is saved on your computer as the entire Excel document. When you open up that file, you see primarily the workbook and whatever worksheet was previously selected when you saved it, and actually the cell that you selected when you saved the workbook. If I were to highlight this and then hit save, I actually haven't saved this, so let's save it. Why not? We'll save it to the desktop. Book 2. Okay. I guess it's book 2. I didn't know that there was a book 2. So we saved it. Done. If I were to close this and reopen it, now it's right here, the same selection that I selected when I saved the worksheet, workbook, the file, when I saved it, it's still selected now. That's very cool. That feature is really awesome, and we'll see why in later videos, but I'm not going to get too far into that right now. But you can actually do things when Excel starts up, and being able to select certain things and save the workbook allows you to save the file, allows you to kind of manipulate the user that's going to be using the file. It is pretty cool. So let's talk about formatting. This is just another topic that I wanted to bring up in the first episode because it's very basic, it's very easy to understand, and it actually has a lot of good implications and bad implications if used incorrectly. Formatting a cell is really simple, but it can be really cool. If I type the number 151 into this cell, Excel automatically knows, based on what I typed in, what this is. And the basic format, this is a number format, the basic format for this number is general. What that means is it's not treating this number as anything in particular, it's just a number. If I go here and I hit number, now Excel is treating this as an actual number, and I can distinguish how many decimal places I want it to show by this little button here. You can always right click and go to Format Cells, and that will change the format of the cells as well. It gives you this nice little window. You can change the number of decimal places right here, but there's a quicker way to do it. It's right here. So if I go like this, it's going to lose decimal places, significant figures after the decimal. If I do this, it's going to add more and more and more and more and more, and it's changing the size of the cell for me, which is a cool little feature that it does. But one thing that you probably, maybe you didn't know, maybe you did know, there's a bunch of other formats in here. There's a date, and it brings up April the 30th, 1900. Why does it do that? Well, all dates in all Microsoft programs, but primarily in Excel, actually have a number coordinated with that date. If you type in something like 42,159 and you push that one into a date format, it pulls up June 4th, 2015. Yep, there you go. What is it pulling from, you ask? Well, what's the very first one? 1/1/1900. That's what it's pulling from. It is very cool that Excel does this because you can actually transform numbers into dates and dates into numbers. It comes in handy sometimes. Other times it's just kind of useless, but it is pretty cool. So that's another format that you can use. Percentage, fraction, scientific, all that kind of stuff. Other things that you can do. I do want to talk about one more thing. This last one here. Text. Now, if I click away from this cell, oh, it didn't do that. Interesting. I've never used 2016 before. But it's actually not formatting these as a number anymore. It is now reading this number as text. One of the primary ways you can tell is text starts on the left of the cell. Numbers by default start on the right of the cell. So if I switch this to general, it hops to the right. If I switch this to text, it'll hop back to the left. The reason this is important is because Excel does not read this as a number. So if I tell it to add something to this, it will, because it knows how to add numbers. But in general, this is text, and so I actually don't know. Let's try it out. Let's take 2 and add this cell. Okay, it does it, yeah. It converts it back to a number. But the main thing is that it's not a number. And so if you are going to do something in Visual Basic, which eventually we will get to, if you're going to do something in that, this is text. And so Excel will not be able to add things to it the same way that you would normally add numbers in Visual Basic. So that is the reason that you can format this as text. And then the other thing is if you want to format this as text, you can add leading zeros, and it won't delete the leading zeros. In any other circumstance, if I were to create here 00151, it converts it to 151 as the number itself and not the text. And so it eliminates those zeros because those zeros are unimportant. That's the reason that this is now popping up. As you see this little caret here, and it's got a little number. It says this number in the cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. Yeah, and so you can convert it to a number, and then it'll jump it back to 151. But in any circumstance, if you want to add those leading zeros, see it's not going to let me, you just convert that to text, and then you can add the leading zeros, and it'll save them for you. But then again, if you're trying to filter for, actually now, if I do this, okay, it still will. Still does convert it to a number. Excel's pretty smart. So those are the different formatting options for numbers, and I just wanted to cover that first because I feel like of everything that people do in Excel, that's one thing that I found really, really cool. You can take a number and you can transform it over and over and over and over and over, and Excel will continue to retain that initial data, which I think is really cool. I just wanted to cover some common Excel stereotypes. I don't know if these are really Excel stereotypes or if they're just things that I think are fun. But I like to poke fun at these because I don't think pivot tables are hard. I don't at all. And we'll get to pivot tables and we'll see. Pivot tables are very easy to understand and super useful in certain circumstances. I think they're overused. I think that there are certain circumstances where you shouldn't use pivot tables, and people do because they think, I'm going to use a pivot table here because pivot tables are hard and it looks more professional or something. I don't know. The real thing is pivot tables are not hard. Pivot tables can give you really, really good information if you use them correctly. VLOOKUP is cool. People think they are so cool using VLOOKUP. I've done this before, and maybe I'll do it right now just because it's really fun. VLOOKUP is kind of, I'm gonna just make a fake data table here. We're gonna go down I'm just going to have 5. We'll call them people. How about that? We'll go people. And then name, because everybody needs a name, right? Matt. Matt's a great name. I think Matt's a great name. George. George needs to be included in that. Wow, I can't spell. All right. What about Nancy? Nancy is good. Bob. And Janet. How about that? All right, so you have these people, and they all have a number, right? And let's say you want to find number 3, but you don't want to just type in Nancy. You want Excel to do that for you. You can use VLOOKUP. That's what we're going to learn today. VLOOKUP. All right, so the nice thing about Excel, here we'll start over from the beginning. This formula is going to be real simple. All right, you type V, and it pulls up a bunch of these things. All right, and I'm just pressing the up and down arrows to move up and down. You can use the mouse too if you want to click on one. If we go down to VLOOKUP, it actually gives a nice little description of what this does. Looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. By default, the table must be stored in an ascending order. What? Yeah, exactly. Basically, the reason people think this is cool is because it is kind of confusing the way it's written. How about this? In my example here, VLOOKUP finds a number and returns or evaluates to a name. Pretty simple. All right, well, lookup value. That's the number we're trying to find. 3. Table array. Well, Excel is really cool. It allows you to select things, and it'll automatically put it in the cell. But if you didn't have that ability, you would actually be able to also type in the top leftmost cell, which is 10, there we go, E10, and you would do a colon. A colon selects all the cells in between those two cells. So then we're going to go F, because that's the next column, and we're going to go to 14, right? So there you go. That's the entire thing. Why did I not select people and name? Well, the reason I didn't is because I don't want this VLOOKUP to be looking at the header, the column, the row that has the headers, because that's not part of my data, right? I only want it to look at the actual numbers and the people's names, and that's it. All right, so we're done there. Column index number. Now, this is where it gets a little weird. If you were to say, what column do I want to return? Well, you would say F, right? Because it's in column F. No. The reason that the answer is no is because we've already told it where the table is that it's looking. It actually highlights it for us already. It says E10 to F14 is the range of data that we're looking at. That's all we want to look at. Okay, so what column are we looking at? Well, I want to return the name of the person, right? And the first column is people, the second column is name. So I want to return the second column, which is 2. All right, and then range lookup. Now, as soon as I put a comma in here, it gives me these options. All right. Sometimes Excel will give you options because it knows there's only certain things that it's expecting for this. We call them arguments, but really the things you put in the brackets there, right? It says true for an approximate match or false for an exact match. Well, if it's looking for numbers, I want it to find exactly 3, right? Because there are options over here, and one of them is exactly 3. So I will say false, and I arrowed down and pressed tab to select the one that I wanted. You may also be able to press enter. Nope, can't press enter. Doesn't like that. Let's go down here again. So when you're here, you press tab. And the reason you press tab is because you want it to insert that, but you don't want to press enter because enter will move you down, right? So I press tab, I close the brackets, I hit enter, Nancy it is. Not too hard. It's really pretty simple, honestly. Why do I not think that VLOOKUP is cool? Well, first off, it's unnecessary. I like it because it is kind of cool. I mean, it's shorter than doing other things, but basically, because of my knowledge of Excel, I'm going to do index, and I'll find the array here. It's that one. The row number is match. Lookup value is 3. Lookup array is this array here. And I want the exact match, which is 0. Column is 2. So the reason I dislike VLOOKUP is because it's already there. It's all the same information. It's just a little bit simpler. I don't think it's all that fancy. Some people do. It's whatever. You know, potato, potato. But I really think that when you're talking about Excel, knowing the concepts is way more important than knowing the formula. Anybody can do any formula they want as long as they understand the concepts. I just came up with this formula that is basically the same thing as the VLOOKUP formula, except I'm doing it in a very particular way to solve for this one particular answer of Nancy when given the input 3. VLOOKUP is exactly the same, but my formula, this one, is a little bit more powerful because I can change things. I can look for a name and return the number with my formula. VLOOKUP, I can't do that. I would have to change the data around in order to make VLOOKUP work. With this formula, if I had the value of Nancy, let me change this around a little bit. Let me click down here so I can select things. If I had the value of Nancy, all right, and then I'm searching in this right here, and I want to return column 1. Returns 3. Much more powerful than VLOOKUP, because VLOOKUP requires me to enter the value in the very first, the leftmost column, and then return whatever column is listed here. In my scenario here, if I wanted to return Nancy, I can do that. If I want to return 3, I cannot do that. With my formula, it is possible. So I don't think VLOOKUPs are that cool. I think there are other ways to go about doing it. As long as you understand the concepts behind the formula, it's much, much easier to do it that way. And basically what I just said, formulas aren't very powerful. When people start to get into Excel, they start to learn Visual Basic, the Visual Basic application. If you haven't seen that before, I'm going to show it this time. Don't freak out. This is Visual Basic. What is it? Well, it's basically code. This is a code spreadsheet, and I can type in things that I want to type in here. Hello! And then I can have it go cell, let's go 1-1. Don't worry about this. This is I'm just doing things to show you how cool Excel can be. All right, that's all I'm doing right now. Just pretend this isn't even happening. So I actually wrote a bit of code, right? And so if I go over to, I don't have the developer tab. This is a brand new version of Excel. I just bought this. So we will go to Options, and we're going to get the, let me see here. Where's the Developer tab? Oh, here we go. There we go. If you don't have the Developer tab, I'll do that one more time just to show you. You go to the File. Click on that. You want to go to Options. If you don't have the Developer tab and you want to use VBA, this is how you start. Quick access, Customize Ribbon. Over here, it says Customize the Ribbon Main Tabs, right? And these are the main tabs in the ribbon. The ribbon is this top part of Excel. You can't see my hands, but you know what I'm saying. This part up here. This part up here contains Home, Insert, Page Layout, all the things you're used to. One of these is Developer, and by default, it is unchecked. If you'd like, you can check that, and you get these things. Now, what are these things? If you don't care, don't worry about it. But this is how you expand on what is already here. This is the part that adds things to the file that are not part of the workbook. There's more that you can add to Excel than what you visually see in the workbook. And so this is where it would be. This macro, sheet.2, hello. Oh, I must have put it on sheet.2. Oops. So this is sheet 2. I created it back when I was doing the sheet thing. If I hit run, it puts hello world into the cell 1-1. Now, you'll notice I put 1-1 in there. That's because when you're using Visual Basic, most of the time you want to refer to the columns by numbers and not by the letter. But you can refer to it by the letter. It's just, I prefer to use the number. It's really preference. But anyway, once you learn Visual Basic, a lot of people will say, formulas aren't that powerful. I can do a lot more with Visual Basic. And they're right. You can do a lot more with Visual Basic. But as I just showed here, with being able to change this from Nancy to 3, the way that formulas work, and if you understand the concepts of the formulas, you can really expand your knowledge of Excel without ever using Visual Basic. You can do so many cool things and parse data and everything just using formulas. And so formulas are very powerful. There's a lot built into just the user interface of Excel, not the Visual Basic side. And I think that there's a lot that I can be talking about. So I hope you've enjoyed this first video. It's just a quick introduction. I will be doing more videos, hopefully weekly. I mean, who knows, maybe I'll just upload when I can. But I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.